Welcome to I Love This Thing So Fricking Much, a podcast about passion. My name is Sophie Katz, and today I am joined by Stacy Barton, a veteran writer and designer of live shows and immersive experiences. Welcome to the show, Stacy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. So here's how this works. Stacy will have 3 minutes to talk about something that she loves. This can be a person, place, thing, concept, activity, anything she wants. Our only requirement is that she loves it wholeheartedly and wants to tell us why. Are you ready, Stacy?
All right, I think I'm ready.
Good. I've got my timer here. Now, what do you love so freaking much?
I love the audience of any show or immersive experience that I create. And it's a funny thing to say, perhaps, but often people forget that we do this for the audience. Themed entertainment, live experiences, immersive shows. It is for the audience. Everything is for them. I started in street theater back in the 80s, and I learned at that time that if the audience didn't matter in what you were doing, they simply walked away. And so that has built my whole career of loving the audience. And every audience is, of course, very different. The audience that goes to the opera and the ballet, the audience that goes to Broadway, the audience that goes to Disney or Universal, every audience is very different, but in the end, they're really all the same. They're humans that want to connect at the same time over a story, over an emotion, over an experience. And I just absolutely love that. That's what makes my life an absolute joy at work, because it's not the topic, it's not the content of the piece that thrills me. It's the audience's response and love and interaction with that content. So I bounce all over the world and do all sorts of different content, all sorts of different styles of theater and show. And the reason that I love that is because it allows me to find out what's that window into that audience's soul. What is the thing that they have come to be thrilled with? Is it Star Wars? Is it Marvel? Is it princesses? Is it roller coasters? Is it horror? It doesn't really matter what the content is. The heart of the audience is always the same. And that is that they want to connect to themselves, to the people in the audience with them, to the people on the stage or the screen. I even remember Mr. Rogers and Romper Room, where they talked through the screen to you. And I've done that as well. I just absolutely love the fact that the audience is who makes it art. Before the audience is there, it's something you've imagined. Once the audience is with you, on a journey with you, and the audience are transformed together, that's when it becomes art.
That's great, Stacy. Thank you for telling us about the audience today.
You're welcome.
I love that you started with that story of working in street theater, because that really drives it home. Like, that audience can just walk away. So talk a little bit more about that experience. What was it like being a street performer with that audience?
Oh, it was absolutely glorious. It's a marker of my career for sure. Many years ago, I was 19, working on the streets at Epcot, actually, and also Renaissance festivals and other fairs like that in the 80s, where that model was really used. And it was magical because there would be nothing happening. I'd be in Italy at Epcot. Nothing would be going on. I would put down a knotted row of rags and invite someone to come up. And pretty soon I would tell them, nothing draws a crowd like another crowd having fun. Mm-hmm. So if you pretend like you're having a good time, all those people over there are going to wonder what's going on, and they're going to come over. And then they get tickled because it's true. And so then they're laughing, and then people come up, and then we would create these stories in which the audience was the star, not just people that we were making fun of. They literally were what made or break the show. They would be Romeo and Juliet, would be grandparents. We'd pull them up out of the audience, and they would offer these gorgeous gems, people that were not improvisational actors, people who were just regular people. And of course, we knew how to expect their sort of regular response, which was what the audience loved the most. Saying something that was clearly just connected, what was currently happening. And we would act as though we'd never heard anything as clever in our lives, and would absolutely praise them and adore them. And they would give us more, and the audience would eat it up. And it was just an utter delight.
That all comes back to what you said before about no matter what the context, no matter what the content of the show, every audience is there to connect. Like they'll see people watching something and they want to be there with them,
yes,
watching it. But it's more about being with them than actually what's on the stage, even if maybe they think they're going there to see what's on the stage.
They want to matter. I think it's true in any art form, but I think it's particularly true in live entertainment, particularly themed experiences. Those kinds of audiences, they don't want to watch a hero on stage. They want to be the hero. They want to matter. And if you show them that they matter, that you cannot continue without them. I mean, that's why I say that about art. Even in my writing, I write poetry and fiction, and it's not real until I've read it to an audience of readers, or till I've watched an audience of readers read it and hear them talk about it, because they want to be a part of it. That's what makes it a conversation. That's what makes it art. When the audience matters as much as the artist, when the artist is too elevated and the audience doesn't matter, to me, we break the confidence and we break what's absolutely gorgeous about this art form.
This is very different than the sort of stereotypical idea of a writer is like the lone genius at their desk, alone in their room, typing at their typewriter, and then it goes out into the world. But the brilliance has already happened before it gets to the audience. But from this perspective, the brilliance is in the relationship between the writer and the audience.
100%. And between the writer and the director, between the writer and the musicians, between every piece of it. I mean, my favorite experiences and shows to be a part of are when I can be a part of the entire team, the engineers, the designers, the art directors, the set designers. I mean, it's all something that we create, and it's all for the experience of the audience. It's not for us. It's for the experience of the audience who's receiving it.
Tell me about a time that an audience's response to a production maybe you were a part of. Tell me about a time their response surprised you.
That's a great question. I'm generally, even though it's the absolute core of what I talk about, I'm always surprised at the smallest thing that they have figured out, the audience, in just the most minute detail that just tickles them. I wish I could think of a line. I'm not able to really come up with a line, but it's that moment when you did something obvious and the audience adores you for not ignoring them. They just giggle or grin. I do remember one time we did an opening number that was quite spectacular. And the woman who had produced the show just clapped her hands in glee and said, I could have paid everything for just that one number.
Ooh.
And it was just because it delighted her. We surprised her. We took something that it was, again, a something out of nothing sort of experience where the stage was bare. And by the time the number was over, it was set completely with the set, with the table and place settings for food. And it was just, she just was so delighted. That was really fun to see.
Absolutely. It must have felt incredibly validating.
Well, yeah, I mean, watching the faces of the audience, and I'm a squinter, and that my casts get tickled because when we have our dress rehearsals, and I'm there, of course, to see how it's going, to offer any help if needed, and they'll tell me that they'll look over and my mouth is moving the entire time. And it's not because I've memorized their lines by any means, but I guess there's something about when they move and speak, it's still coming out of me. It's the funniest thing.
Yeah, you are a part of the production, and that doesn't stop even when it's quote unquote out of your hands and in the performer's hands.
I know. It's just so funny to me that my mouth literally moves. And I promise I have not had time to memorize anything.
Is there anything that you don't like about the audience? And if so, how do you handle that?
Well, sure. I mean, coming from the world of street theater, there are always hecklers. Today, that's what we called them back in the day. I think today in social media, they're called trolls. Their whole intent is to create a disturbance and ruin a situation so that they get attention. And so in street theater, you have your funny quips that help turn the rest of the audience on them because the rest of the audience wants to see the show. But there are versions of that. There are sour pusses, people who don't want change when you're trying to bring in perhaps something new or more innovative. And there tends to be, on occasion, a few noisy no's, people who don't know how to yes and that can be difficult. Again, my years of street theater, I try to bring them alongside. I try to realize they are not feeling special or seen or heard. And I try to bring them alongside. And sometimes you can't. But that's painful for me because I really do. I'm a belonger. I really want everyone to belong. I really want everyone to find a way inside the piece of art that we're creating. So that one's hard for me.
Absolutely, especially since you're coming at the heckler or the troll from a very empathetic stance here. You see what they're doing as just it's the same kind of bid for attention and connection as any audience member who is willingly playing along with the show. They're just maybe doing it in a way that makes other people feel disconnected or hurt.
Absolutely. And it is best if you can shut them down or move them to the side, but there's always an attempt initially. Or if you know that there's a sector of an audience that's resistant to a new way of doing something, then sometimes you can preempt that by, coming alongside and inviting them into the new way we're going to do this material. If it's more in the house than they're used to, or it's in the lobby and not just on the stage, all those variety of things that, so many of us are trying right now. How can we spread this experience deeper and farther than just what happens between the actors? So if you know ahead of time that there's resistance, sometimes there can be a way to say, hey, we're doing this because it's going to be exciting and join us. And sometimes that helps.
And then ideally, everyone gets to be a part of the art together.
That's always the hope. And generally, most of the time, because if you treat the audience with respect, the greater audience, the whole audience that's with you, then they are empowered and they will sort of, by positive peer pressure, keep a lot of the heckling at bay because they have been endowed with the ability to make art with you. They are co-creators of the project with you. And so they hold that with a precious touch. And so then they can be on your side when someone wants to destroy that. And it's not just you, it's all of you together collectively saying, how do we want to connect together in this moment, during this story, in this experience? And if you've made the audience matter as a group, then they will matter as a group to you.
Stacy, thank you so much for telling us about something you love today.
You're welcome.
And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in today. If you'd like to learn more about the audience or our guest, Stacy, you can find her website in the episode description. And if you have something you love so freaking much you want to tell me all about it, consider this your invitation to join the show. I Love This Thing So Freaking Much is a production of Through the Window Media. This episode was directed and edited by Sophie A. Katz. You can find us at Through the Window on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or Tumblr. That is THROU the Window at all those social media sites. Be good to yourself, be kind to each other, and you'll hear from us again soon.